Welcome into another edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery. Today on the show, we're going to take a look at the Falcons schedule, some close-up views, some 35,000-foot views. We'll talk all about it and what we are expecting for this season. A disturbing stat or two about the Falcons' offensive line. This is not good news, but listen, we got to give you the truth about all of it. And Gary Barta, the AD for Iowa, is everything that is part of the problem with collegiate athletics. All that here, it's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Welcome into a Friday edition of Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery. We're asking you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta in your browser, subscribe to our channel, leave us a review, give us some comments, tell us what you think about this show. Up over 1,000 people, so just about hitting 1,100 folks. So thank you so much for being part of our growing community. And I ask you to hit me up on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Well, last night we got the official release of the Falcons schedule. We knew what teams, we knew what home games, we knew what road games. We didn't know the order and everything in it. So as I go through and look at this very quickly, Falcons obviously will start the year at home against the New Orleans Saints, then at the LA Rams, at the Seattle Seahawks, back-to-back road West Coast games, home with the Browns, at the Buccaneers, 49ers at home, at Bengals, Panthers, Chargers at home, Thursday night in Carolina for the Panthers, and then Bears at home, at Washington, home with the Steelers, finally a bye in week 14, and then at the Saints, at the Ravens, and then they'll close out the year at home against the Cardinals and Buccaneers. So some of my thoughts initially as I look at all this. The first quarter of the schedule, first 5 games, even if you will, well, okay, maybe the first 6-7 games, it's really a difficult schedule at the beginning of the year. Saints never an easy draw. That's a rivalry game. Anything can happen. I do like the idea, though, that if you're going to have a West Coast trip and multiples of them, play them in back-to-back weeks. Historically, and this is true for a lot of East Coast teams, but historically the Falcons have always just stayed over on the West Coast. I expect that to happen. So you're in LA to play the Rams on September 18th, and then the very next week you're going to play in Seattle. I expect the Falcons to just stay out on the West Coast. I think it's a good thing to get that out of the way. I think a team young but not beat up or any sort of thing like that and haven't gone through the grind of the season and this and the other, neither of those games is going to be easy per se. Just the idea, though, of physically you get it done early in the year and you don't really have to drag yourself out there on the West Coast later in the season. And then the Browns game is interesting because we'll see about whether or not Deshaun Watson plays. If you believe some of the rumor and innuendo about what Watson's suspension may be, it's very possible that he'll get a 6-game suspension. Okay, in week 4, the Falcons have to play the Browns. So there's a definite chance, not guaranteed, but there's a definite chance that Deshaun Watson won't be available for that game. Now, that doesn't make that game infinitely easier. It's still Myles Garrett. It's going to be Jadeveon Clowney, Takk McKinley. It's still going to be Chubb and Amari Cooper and, all the guys that they have in Njoku and, Kareem Hunt and, all these guys that they have, still out there in Cleveland, all their weapons and everything like that. But, could potentially be no Deshaun Watson. I don't like the bye week in week 14. It's the latest bye that the Falcons have had in a long time, maybe ever. That's a very late bye, leaves you only with basically a quarter of the season to go. But I don't like having to go through, 13 weeks of football before you get at least a 1-week break. Now, they'll get a little mini bye because the only primetime game the Falcons have is the Thursday night game, and that's not a bad deal. So even though you play the Chargers at home, okay, and then have to turn around and play Carolina on Thursday, that's an easy road trip. Hell, that's a bus ride, right? I mean, that's pretty simple. It could be a lot worse. You could have had to go to the West Coast or gone up to Cincinnati or something kind of crazy like that. Some ridiculous thing that the NFL would have put out there. But it works out pretty well. So you get 2 home games, and then your Thursday night game is after a couple of home games, but it's in Carolina, and then you get that little mini bye. So I do think that if there's a stretch where the Falcons can make some hay, because I think the end of the year is tough too. At New Orleans, at Baltimore, home with the Cardinals, home with the Buccaneers, okay? I do think that's sort of a tough stretch. But if there is a stretch where the Falcons, I think, can make some hay and get a chance to maybe put a few wins together, it would be, the Panthers on Thursday, Chicago, Washington, and Pittsburgh. Now, look, Pittsburgh's still going to be pretty formidable with their defense, but you probably most likely play a rookie quarterback at that point. So if there's a area of the schedule, I don't want to say that's easy. It's probably that middle part where it's Carolina, the Chargers, Carolina on Thursday, Bears, Commanders, and Steelers. The one thing that sticks out, and we're going to talk about this in the next segment, is it is pass rush, pass rush, pass rush that is coming after the Falcons. If you literally go through and look, outside of Von Miller, every top-tier pass rusher is going to play Atlanta this year. Both of the Bosas, Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, Hendrickson, Cam Jordan, and on and on and on and on with the pass rushing crew. Aaron Donald. I'm just looking through the list here of all the guys that they're going to see. Chase Young coming back this year. TJ Watt, the guy who tied the record all time in a single season for sacks. And obviously Barrett for the Buccaneers. Just on and on and on. Literally outside of Von Miller, you're going to play every top pass rusher. You're going to see every top pass rusher in the league playing the Falcons this year. So it's definitely a harder schedule. I think the first part of the schedule, first, whatever you want to say, 4 to 6 weeks is brutal. Multiple West Coast trips, playing playoff caliber teams, division rival to start off the year, in Tampa to face Tom Brady. There's a lot of landmines there. But if there is a little bit of ease, it's going through that middle part, and maybe you can find a few wins, through there. Last part's going to be tough as well. I'm not going to give a specific win total, but I think the Falcons are maybe somewhere 5, 6, 7 wins. I think that's realistic. I don't think that they're going to win less than 5 games, but I don't think they're going to win more than 7 games. So, as I see the rest of this roster come together and get a little bit of a feel for what they're going to do. And last year I nailed it. Last year I said 7-10. Said the Falcons would be 7-10 and nailed it. So when I give you the prediction, just, book it, take it, put it in stone, put it in granite, and, it's going to be a lock for it. But all joking aside, I think 5, 6, 7 wins is the realistic target area for what the Falcons can be this year. And we'll see how much improvement that they have. But this is not an easy schedule. And I think the first part and the last part get really tough and tricky for the Falcons, but at least they open at home and they close out the season with a couple of games at home. All right, when we get back, I've got a less than ideal set of numbers that I'm going to give you about the Falcons offensive line. Everything we thought was true looks like it is true. It's all next. It's Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.